Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Jessica and I am here to start off another little cross-stitching vlog for the day. I am going to be talking about all of my stitching life in this video. Things like what I'm stitching. Oh my gosh, Beans, he's never jumped up during a video. It's so distracting. Okay, what was I saying? What I'm stitching, what I'm designing, if I do end up designing anything, color picking, that sort of stuff. So I was thinking about what I want to do, what I want to stitch over the next couple weeks. And for some reason, I'm really stuck on the idea of stitching spring. I don't know why. It's January out there. It's still January. We're still in the middle of winter, but I just really need some spring stitching right now. So I thought up a few, or I remembered a few projects small things that I've designed and just never got around to stitching. So I want to pull those three things out. One of them is from designed last spring, so back in 2024, and it was a just cross-stitch magazine rejection, which is totally fine. It happens, and it happens a lot for me. I get a lot of rejections from them. Yeah, our visions they don't align sometimes, and that's fine. Another thing I have is from 2023, the end of 2023, it is a design that I made. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I made and then I kept redesigning, and it never really worked out, but I've kind of chopped it up into smaller pieces that I think I like now. So that's one option that I'm thinking about stitching. And then the third one is something I designed 2 weeks ago. So a very recent one. It should be good. I shouldn't have any problems with it, I hope. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking of doing. And I'm going to pull all those projects, bring them up here, set things up so I can show them off a little better, and maybe start stitching something today. We'll see. Okay, I am back with all the materials for the three projects that I talked about. I realized I don't have good mock-up images for these two patterns, the first two, the oldest ones, because I used to design things directly into JEDxStitch. Now I go design stuff on my iPad, then move it into JEDxStitch, but all of that is to say is that I don't have good mock-up images for them, and I don't really want to deal with JEDxStitch and exporting them right now. I'll show the patterns eventually, especially once they're stitched, of course. But this first pattern is the Just Cross Stitch magazine pattern. It has such a bright palette. I had forgotten how bright these colors are, but it's really fun. I don't design with a lot of yellow, so that's a fun little pop of color there. This pattern has some pansies in it, two little bunnies. It's all in DMC with the exception of this one Classic Colorworks Rainy Day. I just have two skeins of it here, a partial and a full skein. But I think that could be a lot of fun to stitch. It's on this really bright Fiber on a Whim linen called Hydrangea. I even noticed that I have the little swatch. Sometimes I do a swatch on the fabric just to make sure that if there's some sort of gradient happening where there's shading and certain colors are going to be next to each other, I want to make sure there's enough difference between them, but also enough contrast, but also that they form that gradient that I want them to form. And I think those colors look really pretty on there. So I think I'm kind of leaning towards this one already because it's very different than anything I'm stitching on right now, and it has a really fun, bright palette. And I'll go ahead and talk about the other ones too. The second one is the piece that I made it into a large sampler and then cut it up into lots of different pieces. So the piece I would be stitching right now only uses a very limited color palette from here. I don't know if I can even grab them all. It's the oranges and some browns. I think it's these 4 colors if I'm remembering correctly. The Roxy Floss is really pretty. And I do really love these colors. I don't know if I'm feeling that right now, but maybe later this week. I kind of want the greens too. I do have one pattern that uses a lot of the greens. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. So I have that, and it's stitched on a 40 count XJU Designs fabric called Cocoa Powder. I don't know if it'll translate well in this light. It's a very light purple brown, It's looking gray on my screen, at least from what I can tell, but I don't know if that is actually what's happening with it. Okay, so that's that one. And then the last one is on both of these fabrics. I bought these fabrics because they just looked really pretty from the images online. It's Muted Sedona and Hibiscus by Fiber on a Whim. And when I got them, I just knew that I needed to make something that used both of these fabrics at the same time because they look fantastic together. I don't know if it'll pick up, but there is some like pinky reds in the Muted Sedona. It's just a very rich, deep, reddish brown color, and I love it. It's deeper. I stitched a lot on the Fiber on a Whim brick linen, and this is much deeper and richer than that even. So I have a design made, at least the top of it is made. I haven't finished the bottom for the biscornu, but it's this fun little flower design. This is, the background is supposed to be hibiscus, but it's already looking a little off to me when I have the fabric next to it. I haven't picked colors for this, so that still needs to get finished, and I don't know that I'm not in the mood right now to be picking colors anyway, but I figured I'd show it still. Yeah, it has only, how many colors is that? 7 colors? I don't know if the palette is accurate. Sometimes I forget to add colors to the palette, but I try and add them all in there. I think there's only 7 colors. I was planning on doing all in DNC, make it a nice, easy thing to kit up, and stitch on this 40 count hibiscus. But I'm gonna save this for a little bit later, maybe later this week. I haven't picked colors for a while, and it is a fun process, but I just want to get to stitching right now. So I think I'm going to start on this one right here, the bunny one. What is this called? Pansy Picnic. I'm going to get started on this one. I think that'll be fun. Hey, it's been 2 days since my last update. I am all set up right now. It's a little bit awkward because I'm going to be tilting the camera down to do some color picking. I have a lot of floss here. So I'll be moving the camera after I show this little update on my, what is this, Pansy Picnic pattern. Really cute, fun, bright colors. I am not stitching anything that's super bright right now, so this has been a nice change from my stitching, especially from Aviary. It's a lot different in colors. These 2 little bunnies are going to get filled in, and then there's also like 2 more pansies in these 2 corners, but that's like the whole pattern right there. I'm having some indecisiveness about the fill-in for the bunnies. The way I have it charted right now, this bunny is pink and this bunny is blue, but I kind of want to make them brown, I think. I'm not sure. If I have like a nice tan variegated brown in stash, I might swap that in and do that instead. That's where that one is. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and like shift the camera down so I can show what I'm doing with my color picking. Let me find my image to remind everyone. This is what I'm going to be picking colors for today. I exported this as like an image from the Pixel program I'm using here, and then I put it into PC Stitch, which is the cross-stitching program I use. And it auto picks some colors for you. And this is what I came up with. That's pretty awful. This is not remotely close to what I have in mind for this pattern. So I'm going to be pretty much starting from scratch. Yeah, I don't think any of these colors are going to work. But I am going to start off, I think, looking at this pattern. I think that the colors that will be easiest to pick are the blue, the red, and the pink. The other 4 colors, which are different like greens, greenish browns, those will be the more difficult colors to work out because I think I want them all to be in the same tone, like have the same level of like brightness, saturation, not stand out too much on the fabric, but I also want it to be standing out enough that you can see all of the negative stitching work in there through the fabric. So let's start with the blues. Let me see. So I have My DMC rings here, these are separated by color family. I have these little tags on there. This one's family 6. If you're familiar with the DMC card, you'll know that it comes like separated by color family, and there's 20 families total of the just solid DMCs. So I'm gonna be picking the blue, I think, from family 6. I also grabbed some Threadworks because I kind of wonder if I already have, let me see, the blue that I want in my Threadworks palette. Like, this might be actually the right blue. It's a little bit darker than what I was envisioning, but I honestly don't think that there is a blue in here that is saturated enough, but also a bit lighter than this. Yeah, because as soon as you get a little bit lighter in blue, they become like, this is a little bit too dull. It's kind of like a grayish blue. Still pretty, of course, but I'm wanting something that's very saturated. Like, if they had something like this level of saturation, but not as green, more like, not as like a turquoise blue, more of a royal navy blue, that would work, but I don't think that's here. And since I don't have a master set yet, I use my card to make sure. Like, I go through the family and just see if I'm missing anything. Like, I think actually this family is pretty filled out on this ring, so I don't see, like, this is maybe the closest thing in the family, but then I think actually the Threadworks is even better than that. So I'm gonna go with the Threadworks with the blue. And then I actually think I'll just pull this red for the red in there. I wanted a red orange, and this Threadworks works really well as a red orange. I used it in the under the orange tree pattern. It's just a bright red with orange undertones. I think I want to say 609, DMC 609 is the orange in there. It looks very close to the orange. I'm not sure. Let me see. 606, that's the orange I'm thinking of. And then it's kind of like 666 plus 606. And I think that's going to work really well, especially on this fabric, since it is like the pinkiness in there. It's going to pair well. So blue, got a blue, got a reddish orange. And then for the pinks, PC Stitch, that is one thing that I didn't have on hand. I didn't have the pink that it called for, but they also picked a pink that was kind of like a purpley pink, and I want more of a reddish pink. I think I'm done with these Threadworks. None of those will work in here. I mean, I might just go with 956. I think it's this one right here. No, that's 3705. Where's 956? 01. We got this one right here. That's 956. I think that might work. I think it's dark enough to stand out, like bright enough color to stand out on this fabric. It's not too close in tone to the fabric. Once again, I think it's just too close to the red. I don't think there's going to be enough differentiation. So I think the 956 is a good choice. I might need to swatch it next to the red, swatch it on the fabric, and see a bit later. I might change it, but I think the 956 is a good option for this. It's the pink I use a lot, so I'm gonna pull that one. And then I think the next one that I kind of think this color right here, I was envisioning DMC 18 for it, so I like that one a lot. DMC 18. That's the color I was envisioning. It looks almost yellow, but it is just very slightly green. So I want that one for sure. The more I pick colors or patterns, the more I realize that I like very specific DMC. Like, there's a couple of colors that I just really latch onto, and I always want them in the pattern. And 18 is kind of one of them at this point. So I think this one's gonna work. Trying to just match the value, the brightness of the colors. These colors don't need to be too contrasting. The greens, I don't need them to contrast much. They are pretty well separated in the pattern. Like the four legs of the design, like those are all in different places. They don't come up against each other. The only places they come up against, the greens go up against each other, are like in these stems. And even then, it doesn't necessarily need to be a lot of contrast because it's still going to look like a stem, still going to look like a leaf, even if there's a low level contrast between them. But it'll provide some like variation in the color to make it a little bit more interesting, especially for stitching. I'm realizing that this green right here is very, very similar to the one in aviary. So I'm going to go grab that ring just to be sure I don't want to use that. Okay, so this green is pretty much exactly the same, at least as what I have on the screen right there. This is one of the colors I have in aviary right now. And I don't know, yeah, I think that actually looks really good with those. I think that matches. Okay, I'm missing 3829, and I think that might be the color I want to go with. I might have it somewhere else in my stash, like in other projects, but yeah, the only question, I think the 3829 is the one I want for that fourth color, although now I'm questioning this because it is very bright. I don't want it to compete too much with the like main colors, my bright colors right here. I want these to stand out the most. This last one is hard. Maybe if I do this one instead. Yeah, I think I like that better. Okay. All right, so now I think I got all of the colors I want. This one is something I want. No. Yes. No. No. Okay, so I got my colors. These, I might change these too. If I stitch with them and I see that they're not giving me enough of, not standing up enough on this fabric, I might have to change them. But that's three of the greens. One of the greens it's the brownest of these three of the four shades of green that I'm using. That one I don't have, so I'll have to go pick that up at the store or find it in one of my projects. These are the colors that are popping. So we got the red, blue, and pink that I want to really pop, and then these ones are more toned down, something that will be more of a background supporting colors, not supposed to stand out much. I got my swatch here for the flower biscornu pattern. I did have to make some changes in the pink and the red orange. I stitched up this 956, and it just, on its own, it looks fine next to everything else, but on its own, it just really wasn't contrasting well with this fabric. And so I did want to change that to the 891, and because I changed that pink, I ended up changing the red as well so that there was a better contrast between the pink and red, this Threadworks colors. So it's like next to each other on the fabric, stitching one strand on a 40 count. There's just not much differentiation. So I picked a darker, cooler red for that. And now I think I'm happy with the brights on here. That's the end result right there. And then for the green-brown colors, they're definitely more primitive, definitely a lot more subdued. They don't stand out as much, and that is what I'm going for. So I'm happy with how those turned out. Yes, except for 18 is pretty bright, but it's still fun. It's fun to have in there. And I think I'm going to go ahead and look at my original pixel art and see if there's any sort of rearrangement I want to do with the green-brown colors. I think that these middle two colors are very similar. It's hard to, there we go. I don't know. It's going to be blurry if I pull it too close, but you can see it better. Maybe they are different, but they are still very similar, especially from far away. So I kind of want to separate those two in the pattern. Maybe just rearrange things so that the 18 is spaced out more equally throughout the pattern, because right now it's just in certain quadrants. I might want to splash that all around the pattern, make it more even. And yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. Oh yeah, I did change this brown color as well. It's just one shade up from what I had selected. I picked that one from the swatch card and didn't have it in my stash. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I just picked one shade up and it works. It works. It's good enough. After I've picked my floss colors for a pattern, I like to go back into the digital file and adjust those colors to more closely and accurately match the floss that I've picked. This way I can see if there's anything off with the pattern, if there's anything I want to change before I start stitching. And I did notice that I really did not like the placement of the two blue flowers, the ones that had a lot of blue in it, after I changed those colors. So I did that adjustment here. And then I noticed that I wasn't happy with the border, the interior border. It just wasn't working for me, and I spent a lot of time looking at it and just staring at it and seeing if there was any changes I could make that would make me happy with that border. Eventually I decided that maybe a solid border was the way to go, but after I changed it to be a solid border, I still wasn't super happy with it. That's when I noticed that I might be able to break out some of the elements that are on the edge of the biscornu and make those slightly different colors. So I popped some greens in there, and then I had a little bit of a moment of indecisiveness and I changed them to red and pink. I was flipping those on and off for a while. I like to zoom out some so that I can get an overall better picture of what it's looking like. Finally, I made up my mind, and there we go, the end result. I can't believe it. Aviary is now finished. I was not expecting to get a finish on this, but it's done. It finally clicked. It finally just took over my stitching life, and I just needed to finish it. I was reading an audiobook over the weekend. Book 4 in the Stormlight Archive. Really long audiobook. And this was the piece that I chose to stitch on heavily while listening to that audiobook. So I was more than halfway on this. It had maybe about a quarter left. I have been working on this bottom portion right here. It's been really fun. Lots of different birds to stitch in there. Let me see. My favorite one I decided is either this quail over here or I don't know. I really like this little guy right here. This was not based on any real life bird, so I'm not sure what that one is, but he looks really silly. Yeah, that's where it is. I have a lot of fun stitching these the grass in this way. It's just not too boring because it's not solid fill. It's very stripy. You get lots of different colors up next to each other. It's a lot of interest in the changing combos, and I enjoy it. So I'm really happy that one's done. Like I said, I was not expecting it, so I don't have any frames picked out. I didn't have anything in stash that looked like it might fit this. I'm going to have to go looking online and maybe in thrift stores this weekend to see if I can find anything. I looked a little bit on my custom framing site that I like to use, and they have this really pretty robin's egg blue. I might go with that if I don't find anything thrifted, because I think it'll pull out these colors really well. It'll just be a nice complement to the piece, I think. So there's Aviary. We're really happy to have that one finished. I also finished another piece. I finished Pansy Picnic over the weekend. Now this one got quite a few changes from the original pattern. I think I mentioned that this little block right here was the entire pattern that I originally submitted to just cross stitch, and it got rejected. I did change the bunny colors, like I said, to a brown instead of the pink and blue colors that they were going to be. So that was changed. And when I was stitching, finishing off the stitching on this section, I was thinking about how I wanted to finish it, and I thought it would be really fun to try a different type of pillow finish on it. I don't know that I've seen anyone do this before, but I've seen those like Quaker, I don't know what they're called, Quaker balls, where it's like a 3D spherical cross-stitched piece where each section of the ball is either hexagon or octagon, something like that. There's different pieces that you stitch together using a similar stitching method as like a biscornu. So I want to try making it's not a cube, but it's like a squished cube out of this pillow. These are the 4 sides to it. It's a continuation of the border that's in the main top piece. And then I stitched the back of it, which doesn't have much going on, just my initials and a date. These initialed alphabets and for this are from a thrifted book, which I forgot to grab, but it's something I found at the thrift store maybe last week. I think it was last week. For $1. So they just have a lot of alphabets in there, and I picked something for the back for that. So that's where I'm at with that. I just need to do the final finishing. I have beads, some fun beads, Mill Hills. It's not a lot of sun out there, so they're not really picking up really well, but it is a really pretty purple bead. I don't know exactly where I'll place them. I know I want them on the top, like the top border, but I don't think I want to space them evenly because that'll break up like this little border happening around the edge. I think I want them to be clustered in these corners. I'm not sure how I'll do it, but that's the plan currently. There's Pansy Picnic. Next, I have one more thing to show. It's my biscornu pattern I've been working on. It's looking really good. These are, I think I showed the swatches earlier for this, but those are the colors. It's definitely different than what I originally had envisioned for this piece, but in the end, I really like how they came out. And that's pretty common for when I make pixel art. It just changes. You have a lot of limitations with DMC and just floss colors. And you just have to work with what you got. So that's the final floss, and here's where it's at. It just has the 2 other flowers that go here and finishing that border, and then of course I have to design and stitch up the bottom piece too. I think this is going to be a really tiny biscornu. Like, it's really small, and then it's going to be like the edges are going to be folded down. I've never made a biscornu before, so that's going to be new. It's going to be exciting. I hope that this design will work out in a biscornu format. It was hard when I was designing this to kind of wrap my head around which sections were going to be fully visible on top of the biscornu and which sections would kind of roll over to the sides. So hopefully this will work out. But that's where it's at. I'm going to keep working on this. I might try finding a frame for aviary this weekend. That's all I got for now. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.